This is a Fairmount about Fairmount, the new Visions Civic League podcast. Hear from guests that matter to you. Real people, real talk, real facts.
Hello, neighbors. I'm excited because you get to meet my friend Nicole Mason. Nicole Mason is the founder of Glean Cleaning Services, but I've actually known her even outside of that realm. She's great. We connect often, and I'm excited to see where this conversation goes today. But Nicole, I have a question for you. What does the community need to know today?
Wow. Well, Paul, thank you for the opportunity to even have a conversation online with you. I think what I would say is the community needs to know that there are opportunities for folks that sometimes are all online. And so I'm always concerned about people who don't they don't get their entertainment and education and all the resources from online. So how can we engage and connect with people? So Churchill is booming and changing, as everybody knows, those of us who live here, those of us who work here. And I think I want to make sure that we don't lose a whole population of people who kind of just see change, but they don't know what's happening and
Yeah.
going on, because most of the resources and information about what is changing are online. So I would love people to know that there are good changes coming.
Mm-hmm.
There might be some other changes that we need to be mindful of, but
Yeah.
there are opportunities and resources everywhere.
Yeah. And that's been a big value of yours for a long time. And somebody listening could be thinking, wait, why Glean Cleaning Services? I haven't heard of it. Why is someone from that on here? But what you're doing is bigger than what people may assume, because a big value of what you're doing behind Glean is what you just described, that there are people in need of opportunities that may not have access to those opportunities. And Glean is stepping in to meet that space. So tell me a little more about Glean and how you are trying to create these opportunities and spaces for people.
For sure. And thank you for kind of putting that in a nice bow. So, our goal is to turn dirt into jobs.
Hmm.
So, it may be a very ambitious goal, but it is our mission. I have worked and lived here in Churchill for a number of years, working with folks who have been traumatized. And one of the things that I noticed working with children who had experienced trauma was that there were some basic needs that weren't being met, and we couldn't talk about these higher level things until we made sure that everybody was safe,
Hmm.
everybody was fed, everybody was stable. And so Glean came out of just a desire to see that people, wherever in life they are, whether they are pending retirement, they are retired, whether they are have been unemployed for a while, whether they have a new need, as inflation has happened, all the things are happening. Where is a place that they know they can go and generate income? They know they will be treated with value, with dignity, and respect. They can create a schedule that works for them. So as I was looking, I was also creating.
Hmm.
So, what would be an ideal environment that I would want to work in? And so that's what we created through Glean. So, as much as we tell our customers we want to do a fantastic job in cleaning, cleaning is the vehicle that we use to help um, people grow, whether that's individuals or families. And I'm excited about what can become of something as simple as cleaning and how it could positively impact people's lives.
Yeah. Well, and what you're talking about is something that most entities could lean into. Stepping back and saying, what do our hiring processes look like? Who are we hiring? Who are we not hiring? And a lot of times entities don't do that because they're afraid of the risk. You know, if there's someone who's been unemployed for a while, well, is there a reason for that? And what if we hire them and the same thing happens?
Mhm,
What would you tell these
mhm.
entities about why it's actually worth investing in people rather than just always playing it safe?
That's a really interesting question because if the bottom line is your only bottom line, then you'll always find ways to circumvent people. You'll always find ways, and we saw that with the strike that just happened with the shoremen.
Mm-hmm.
If your goal is profit only, then you will find ways to eliminate people. But people are the heart of the purpose of why Glean exists.
Mhm.
So even if and there are machines that can do parts of our jobs, even if we could be fully automated and fully robotic, it would not fulfill mission for us. So I'm even considering what would it look like to train our staff as the world is changing and evolving. We want to be ahead of the curve. What would it look like to train our staff on using those machines?
Mm.
And then they would be equipped that they could still gain income, but they would be overseeing machinery. So that's futuristic. But to answer your question, I would say um, I would consider us a social enterprise. We are not formally certified, but we have two bottom lines. And at the end of the day, when I hear of staff saying, "Hey, I was able to save for my down payment as a result of this job," or "Hey, my special needs son was able to go into whatever resource they needed because they had this additional income," that is a bottom line. That is a KPI. That is a success indicator for me because that's the heart of the company.
Yeah.
Now, we still have to be profitable and solvent. We want to be sustainable, but we also want to be
Yeah.
impactful.
Yeah. When it goes back to what you said earlier about you're looking at kids who are navigating hard situations and realizing there are these core things that if they're missing, it impacts everything. And when we're talking about thriving communities, it's the same deal. If we ignore these core
Mm,
things that are impacting the community, then the community is not going to be able to thrive. But when we invest in
mhm,
everyone, when we actually strive to find a healthy reality for everyone, then everyone benefits. I mean, it can scare people to think about
mhm,
if
mhm.
this person who is in a hard situation uh, is invested in what's it going to cost the rest of us. But what you're saying is that actually you gain from this. When they win, you win as well.
So the concept of glean is not an original idea. It comes from a story in the Bible of Ruth gleaning in the fields. It was her in between place, and
Mm,
so that is the concept of what we're doing. And I would say my faith is significant to the work that is being done. So widows and orphans are talked about throughout
yeah.
Scripture in terms of helping. And we recently had a woman older senior citizen, who unfortunately lost her
Mm,
husband. And as a result of that, she had a new financial need, and it was significant. And so I was able to see how additional income would help her, but I was also unfortunately able to see how additional income hurt her. So she
mm,
ended up, after a couple months working with us, she got a letter in the mail, um, which basically said, "Hey, because you are making this additional income and you have a full time
yeah.
job, you can no longer qualify for some pension benefits." And so she had to end with us, but it was a reminder to me that we are navigating
Hmm.
systems that are set up for particular
Yeah.
ways. And sometimes those systems, they want to be beneficial, but they're not, because you're making a rule across the board.
Hmm.
It doesn't meet every individual's needs. And so I think when you generate your own income separate from being connected to a system that could change the rules at any time.
Hmm.
They could, you know, we've had situations where there's a delay in people getting their payments. So that in terms of social service type
Hmm.
situations. So I think there's a benefit in generating your own income as we go forward, as we see, government priorities changing
Yeah.
and all the things. I don't know if that answers your question, but I
Yeah.
would say we have seen victories, but we've also seen challenges where it's just a unique
Yeah.
environment.
Well, I think that is an important story to share because it can be easy for us to just offload these issues onto entities like yours that can then handle that thing. But you may be able to step into some of these places. But what you've just described is no, actually, there are things we can do, but there are things we need to do. And we've had elected officials on
Mhm.
this podcast. Like elected officials need to be aware of what you just described. Oh, the way the systems are set up that are supposed to be beneficial, it creates this gap or it creates this threshold that actually becomes detrimental. What can we do to reshape this? So we all need to be a part of this. So in light of that, how can the community connect with what you are doing or support these kind of things?
Yeah. So there are multiple ways. So if you know someone who's looking for additional income, we are, are actively hiring. So every Thursday we interview people, and we make it convenient. The initial interviews by phone, so everyone can come onto the website. It's gleanllc.com. If people know of churches or offices or buildings that need cleaning and want to have a team that is honest and trustworthy in the space, who will do a great job, then they can also go to that same website, gleanllc.com, and it'll say request a quote. And then the third thing is if someone's saying, hey, I've always wanted to start a cleaning company, or I've started a cleaning company and now I'm looking for additional customers, we have something called the Glean Network, because I've learned over time that we do better at working together. So the Glean Network, we pass referrals to other cleaning companies. We work collaboratively with them if there's a large project and we need to take it on. So we have a few different ways to be of service to the community.
That's great. Any final things that you want to say to the community?
Yeah, I'm so excited about what's happening in Churchill, and I don't know if all my neighbors are excited. You know, those who were originally here, I've only been here for about 10 years, but I see changes happening, and I want to make sure that those who were originally here feel involved and connected and maybe even protected in this process. And so, if there's ever a time where, people are kind of concerned or anxious about what's happening, what's going on, or they feel ill-informed, I would say connecting with your organization, other civic organizations is really a great resource, because you see these buildings just kind of popping up and you don't realize, oh, 5 years ago, they filed for this permit, and 6 years ago, they asked permission to do this thing. So I think being involved in local civic organizations really is a resource, because you get to have your voice heard, and it echoes.
Yeah.
It's not just kind of in isolation. It allows you to have a little bit more agency.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, thank you so much for sharing, but also for the ways that you and Glean are keeping an eye out for those who may easily be forgotten or neglected or even rejected, and for stepping into those spaces for that. I love that the reference to scripture that you noted, this in-between space. Thank you for doing that. And thank you for inviting us into that space and for helping us to grow and being neighbors helping neighbors.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate this opportunity.